Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today. We are going to completely demystify the complex economic systems that govern, well, literally everything around us. We're talking about our jobs, our salaries, the prices you pay at the grocery store, and just the daily rhythms of our lives. Now, I know, it sounds like a massive, kind of intimidating topic, but I promise you by the end of our time together, you are going to see the global economy with absolute clarity. It's going to make so much sense.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap. First, the three big economic questions. Second, the great economic spectrum. Third, the mixed economy compromise. Fourth, ranking the global economy. And finally, number 5, economies of the future.
All right, part 1, the three big economic questions.
Before we can even start talking about global markets or trillion-dollar industries, we have to ground these massive abstract concepts into a really simple problem-solving exercise. It's one that every single human society has had to face. I want you to put yourself in this scenario for a second. Imagine you and a group of people have to build a brand new society totally from scratch. You look around at your land, your resources, your people, and you immediately, right out of the gate, have to answer 3 exact questions. Number 1, what are we going to produce? 2, how are we going to produce it? And 3, for whom are we actually producing this stuff? The way you choose to answer those 3 fundamental questions, that completely determines your entire economic system.
Now, for the vast majority of human history, the answer to those 3 big questions was incredibly simple. It was basically, just do what our ancestors did. This is what we call a traditional economy. In this system, your economic activity is based entirely on customs, culture, and inheritance. Production isn't about making some massive profit, it's strictly about community survival, and it relies heavily on older, more primitive technology. It is a system that heavily prioritizes stability and strong social bonds way over rapid growth or wealth accumulation.
To really bring this to life, just picture a family of potters living in a remote Himalayan village. They aren't checking daily market trends on their phones to price their goods, right? They're passing down a trade generation by generation. They're often trading their pots through a direct barter system. Maybe exchanging rice for milk or clay for tools. And while this model absolutely still exists today in places like Amazon tribal communities or indigenous Arctic groups, and it scores incredibly high on environmental sustainability, by the way, its fatal flaw is that productivity and innovation remain exceptionally low, which naturally brings us to our next phase.
So what exactly happens when societies start getting larger? We enter part 2, the great economic spectrum.
As human societies industrialized, 2 incredibly different ideological tool sets emerged to answer those 3 big questions we talked about. On one side, we have the market or capitalist economy. Driven by Adam Smith's famous concept of the invisible hand, this system is all about private ownership, the profit motive, and really intense competition. This leads to massive innovation and tons of consumer choice, but it also risks severe economic inequality. Now, on the exact opposite side of the spectrum is the command or socialist economy, driven by the ideals of Karl Marx. Here, the state owns the factories and the railways, and everything runs on centralized planning. This system prioritizes universal basic services and reducing that inequality. But on the flip side, it often really struggles with bureaucratic inefficiency and product shortages. 2 completely different ways of solving the exact same problem.
Let's actually map this out onto human history so you can see how we've continuously evolved our answers over time. Pre-18th century, that was completely dominated by tradition. Then, the 18th and 19th centuries hit us with the Industrial Revolution and the explosive rise of capitalism. Fast forward to the 20th century, and it was defined by this massive global ideological clash between capitalism and socialism. And that incredible tension brings us right into the 21st century, where societies started realizing something absolutely crucial. This historical clash brings us right to part 3, the mixed economy compromise. So, societies eventually looked around and realized, hey, neither extreme is perfect here. Pure capitalism created immense innovation, for sure, but it also spawned dangerous monopolies and severe worker exploitation. On the other hand, pure socialism created strong safety nets, but it led to major shortages, a lack of innovation, and really slow growth. Enter our modern reality, the mixed economy. This is basically a pragmatic compromise. Countries essentially merged the best of both worlds. A mixed system allows both the private sector and the government to play a role. It lets free markets, competition, and the profit motive drive all that great innovation, while the government actively steps in to regulate monopolies, provide essential welfare like healthcare and pensions, and frankly, manage the economy when catastrophic crises hit.
Now take a look at the balance in this comparison. It's fascinating.
While a market economy gives you high innovation but pretty low equality, and a command economy gives you high equality but very low innovation, look at where the mixed economy sits. It is right in the middle. It beautifully balances moderate equality with high consumer choice and high innovation. It's kind of the ultimate pragmatic middle ground. And honestly, there is no better real-world example of this exact shift than India's dramatic economic journey. Before 1991, India operated under what was called the Licensed Raj. This was a period of heavy state control and huge public sector dominance. They were leaning way closer to a command structure. But in 1991, India faced a massive financial crisis and aggressively shifted its place on the spectrum. Through liberalization, privatization, and opening up to globalization, they let market forces in to accelerate growth. But, and this is key, they still retained vital social welfare programs. It is literally a textbook example of adopting a balanced mixed economy.
All right, let's zoom out now and look at the cold, hard math in Part 4, ranking the global economy.
So how do we actually measure all this today? The gold standard is the World Bank classification, and it categorizes economies based entirely on one very specific formula, gross national income, or GNI, per capita. Basically, that's just the total national income divided by the population. I actually want you to consider for a second where your own salary and your own country fits into this global math. Because guys, this isn't just some fun trivia fact. This exact classification determines a country's loan eligibility, how much international aid they receive, and how attractive they are for global investment. It is a huge deal.
And this breakdown brilliantly illustrates what that math actually means on the ground for real people. Notice how different wealth tiers face completely different societal challenges. A low-income economy, like Burundi, is literally battling for basic survival against poverty and hunger. Move up one tier to a lower-middle economy, like India, and the core issue shifts to managing massive population pressure while rapidly industrializing. Jump to an upper-middle economy, like China, and they're struggling with heavy pollution and wealth inequality from all that rapid manufacturing. Finally, a high-income economy like Norway. They have incredibly high living standards, but they face the completely different challenge of an aging population. The math quite literally dictates the obstacles a country has to overcome. So what about tomorrow? Let's turn to our final chapter, Part 5, Economies of the Future.
First up is the digital economy. This whole space is driven by internet technology, cloud computing, e-commerce, and obviously, AI. Think of the massive Amazon ecosystem, or India's incredible UPI digital payment revolution. In fact, if you are watching this explainer right now on a smartphone or a laptop, you are actively participating in and fueling the rapid growth of the digital economy. It is borderless, and it is moving lightning fast.
Spawning directly out of all that digital connectivity is the gig and sharing economy. We're talking about platforms you probably use all the time: Uber, Swiggy, Airbnb, Upwork. Think about the everyday delivery rider or a freelance graphic designer. This model is completely revolutionary because it offers incredible on-demand flexibility for the worker. But it completely lacks the traditional job security, the health insurance, and the legal protections of those older economic systems we talked about. It is a massive societal trade-off that we are all actively navigating right now.
And finally, we have the green and circular economies. While historical models, whether they were capitalist or socialist, focus purely on maximum production and maximum consumption, these modern frameworks are totally different. Pioneered by countries like Costa Rica and the Netherlands, they prioritize planetary survival. The circular economy is absolutely obsessed with reuse, repair, and absolute waste reduction over blind consumption. It's an economy that isn't just built for the next quarter's profit report, it's built for the next century's survival.
And that brings us to the ultimate question. As we've seen today, from tribal bartering all the way to AI-driven digital markets, no single economy is perfect, right? They all have their unique strengths, and they all have severe, glaring weaknesses. Economics isn't just some static textbook. It is a continuous, living, breathing evolution of human problem solving. So as we face the really unique challenges of tomorrow, from massive climate change to artificial intelligence, which blend of these systems do you think holds the key? How are we going to choose to answer those three fundamental questions tomorrow? Thank you so much for watching, and as always, keep questioning the systems around you.